this is a juicy topic. We're going to chat with three incredibly suitable, let's call it suitable people who are in this space, who happen to be women. And we're going to talk about whether this is a trend or it's here to stay, if it's a popular thing, flavor of the month, or something more. So yeah, I'd love to welcome on stage. In fact, we have Chandrika, we have Madhura, and we have Anu. So very warm welcome to you, ladies. I'm super excited to have this discussion with the three of you.
Thank you, Sonal. Great to be here.
Wonderful, fantastic. So we're going to get to know you a little bit, as well as your views on the gig economy as we get going. Let's start with Chandrika, because I love the fact that you're here today, because when we think of gig economy, we think there's a whole world out there, but it's really overwhelming. You don't quite know where to start. Having been someone who's been through consulting, and you've seen your share of consulting, public, private sector, and then you did a little stint of your own consulting, a firm, and then you started your own firm back 6 years ago.
That's right.
I'm really curious with your rich background, because flexing it is not like it's here today, gone tomorrow. You've got 2,000 clients around the world, like Bill and Melinda Gates, PwC, Genpact. Right. This is serious business. So I'm curious for you, because I know you're going to say, yes, of course, gig economy is important. But talk to us about the journey, Chandrika, from 2014 till today. What are your thoughts?
Thanks a lot, Sonal. So yes, it's been a very personal journey, also a labor of love. I have to say, we were working in the gig economy before it was even a term, before a lot of people were even talking about it. And I think, I know one of the questions was, is this trend sustainable? And this trend is here to stay. If you look around the world, you see the data that shows in developed markets, between 20 to 35% of workforces are already engaged in independent work of some kind. And the trend is catching on in India and Asia as well. You look at global platforms like Upwork, 40% of the talent comes from India. And I think the drivers that have underlying this trend are actually quite secular in nature. And they're driven by professionals wanting more flexibility, more autonomy. We've seen millennials who are very, very keen to do great work, do impactful work, and are going more and more towards shorter and shorter gigs to achieve that. On the other hand, we are seeing companies that have realized that if the best talent is opting for more flexible career paths, they need to offer that as well. And so, something that was more the mainstay of startups and SMEs that primarily relied on gig workers, we're now seeing in the last several years that large companies have really taken to, gig talent in a big way and are using them for actually pretty important and pretty strategic work. So when we talk to our freelancers, we're very happy to find that over 90% of them think they're doing very strategic and important work for their clients. And that's another trend that we've seen over the last several years, that, the gig economy has become much more mainstream. So I would say a few years ago, when we thought of freelancing, one would, think tech, creative. And of course, when Uber and Lyft and TaskRabbit entered, a lot more of the, deliveries and cab hailing. But I think one of the big shifts we've seen is that freelancing is now permeated even more mainstream business functions like marketing, like HR, like strategy. And that, again, I think has, given a lot more comfort to organizations to realize that they can use this talent that's available in a very agile manner, access the skills that they need, quite efficiently, and use them for important strategic work. And I think the last thing I'd like to highlight is that, technology has played a big role. Because collaboration technology, things like Slack, things like Zoom, that just make it so easy for people around the world to interact with each other, has been a big, player in this. And also, I think platforms that have come up to cater to this have also been an important contributor, because earlier the gig economy, relied on referral. Everyone was, I needed a consultant, so let me ask my friends, let me ask colleagues at work, and that, worked, but it wasn't efficient and it wasn't scalable. So around the world now, we've seen platforms, flexing it in India. We've seen other platforms come up in other parts of the world that really enable demand and supply to connect quite seamlessly. And I think that has also helped, build comfort and trust on all sides of the ecosystem.
Fantastic. I find this super exciting, and I'm taking away a few things you said, which I honestly didn't expect to hear. Words like comfort, because companies can be like shaky ground. What does this mean? It looks like attrition, etc. But actually, it's providing comfort. You touched upon millennials, and we're going to go there with Madhura in a little bit, because I know we have there's always like, what about us? And we're getting there. And I love the fact that you said strategic work, right? And when I see your website, these are vetted professionals, handpicked with using tools like AI, which is amazing, right? So and I love the fact that it's going up the value chain. It's strategic work. It's not a KPO. Nothing wrong with a KPO, but at the end of the day, it's limited, right? And how much can you do? Transcription and send us your research work. We'll do it in Bangalore. It's much more than that. So this is super exciting.
Absolutely.
And, thank you so much for sharing, Chandrika and Anu. Let's talk about the year that this has been. Okay, the polite way would be calling it a dumpster fire. That's what I've been using to describe it. And it's not a joke. It's a serious thing. And one of the bad things that's happened, and I'm sure you know this, you lovely women here, that they say that actually women have regressed in terms of all the good work that's happened over the last 50 to 100 years, maybe 50 years. It's actually gone back, and it's going to take a while to go ahead, So I don't like the doom and gloom all the time, because who is it who said in every opportunity, in every chaos, there is an opportunity, and sometimes it's a little bit hidden. So keeping in mind what we just talked about, gig economy, and there's a tech platform, which is kind of the overarching thing that Chandrika said. Thank God we're in 2020. Can you imagine being in lockdown with no internet? I would just go mad. So looking at women, COVID, gig, and then looking at everything that you do, Anu, which is women in tech, promoting women in STEM roles. What are your views on all this? This is such a loaded question.
And we can be here all day, but I'll try and encapsulate it in 5 minutes. So look, you're absolutely right. I think COVID, as far as women is concerned, has put us about a decade back. 5 out of 10 women have lost their jobs in India. India has now plummeted down to below 20% as far as women workforce is concerned. I'm talking blue collar and white collar. And white collar is like plummeting down from 36% to about 24%. So the numbers are not looking good. We are behind Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, if this makes us feel any right. So I think we've been doing a lot of work with the companies. We are largely a B2B2C. And I think when I look at companies, I look at women or even men. When we talk about gig flexibility, what the future holds, to me, a large bit about this is mindset. Right? Whether it's the companies or it's the talent out there, men or women. And I think here is what I see happening here when the whole COVID thing started. Working from home, remote working, it's a panacea to all problems that women have. Now we can work flexibly. Yeah, I mean, they could, but, working from home when your husbands are in office is a very different gig than, when they're sitting in office and you don't have a house help coming home. And that's contributed to reasons not just in India, but across the world of women stepping back. So I think there's a lot of mindset shift which needs to happen. I completely echo Chandrika's point that, things are looking much better as far as gigs are concerned, because when we look at the future skill set, there aren't any. There aren't any trained people. Try headhunting AI ML people. It's a handful of people in the market. When we just did a career fair, and Madhura and I were talking about it, and she was a great partner with us, where we had 31,000 women attend and about 44 employers come in with 2,000 jobs. A lot of them were looking at gig workers. They were looking at full-time workers, but the focus was skill set. And we've had to go back for some of the skill set and saying, there aren't any skill sets, but here is a potentially viable candidate, but we have to take a bet on it. And so the companies have to change their mindset about ways of working, about the skill sets they need and how they groom talent. For women or men, it's all about, again, different ways of working and how do they adapt to it. So gig can be quite, I would say gig doesn't mean you work less. And in some circumstances, you actually work more. So every time we say flexible and gig working, there is this, maybe it's me and all the feedback that keeps coming to me, and Chandrika, you can validate it. Oh, you're doing it like because you want flexibility, you want to have like, you want to go for a walk and then come back and pick up 1 hour of work. Actually not. Sometimes people
not
are
at all.
Three different assignments together. So it's very, very hard work. And you're talking to somebody who launched her venture just when COVID set up. So we actually became digital natives and we grew through it. Honestly, ladies, I haven't worked harder in my life in any of my corporate jobs. And it's been a whirlwind, but it's been very, very fulfilling. So there's an opportunity, but the mindset of keeping yourself on the path is extremely important, according to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that you said that. The perceptions, can we do something about it? Not really. Obviously, we let our work do the talking. But 5 out of 10 unemployment is obviously not surprising, but at the same time, it's an opportunity, right? So when you're saying AI, ML, and you expect a plug-and-play solution, it doesn't happen. You need to invest. There's major upskilling, training, which is a great opportunity. I'm thinking, my gosh, it's a great time to establish a school which does all this stuff, because the previous panel was talking about scale. You cannot do anything in India. Well, it's there. Somebody has, it's up for grabs, right? So
in fact, Sonal, I'd like to build on one of the things Anu said. Women are not leveraging gig work and freelancing enough.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
And I think there's a bunch of reasons.
Sorry, if we get into why, Anu, we would be here all day.
I know. And there's, and there is a bunch of reasons for that. But I think the data actually is quite stark. Globally, 60% of freelancers are women. In India, that number is closer to 20%. And that's, again, quite similar to what we see on our platform, where 15 to 20% of active freelancers only are women. When they do freelance, we find that they end up doing remote work, they end up doing part-time work, so they're able to manage flexibility and doing good projects, but just not enough of them are getting out there and starting to look for freelance opportunities. The other thing that actually, it pains me personally a lot is that we sell ourselves short all the time. So for the same project, same skill set, women, quote 35% less than men on an average. We just released some data of about almost 4 lakh data points of what we've seen over the last couple of years. And it's actually very, very stark. I think a lot more needs to happen to build awareness amongst women professionals around this as an opportunity, around also not selling yourself short.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I am, it pains you to say it. It pains me to say it. I've seen it in every single country I've worked in. It's not a cultural thing. It's a universal thing. We have to make the ask. If we don't make the ask, we don't get it, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman. So, no, fabulous point. Madhura, let's talk about Aspire for Her, because now we touched upon women. We touched upon a little bit. We talked about millennials, and you're right in the thick of it with 18 to 25-year-olds. And particularly this year has been a big year for many people, but particularly for you at the foundation. It's been in terms of gigs, right? It's been a bit of an explosion. So talk to us about particularly the mentorship part that has been played by more senior people, men or women, with this, because they say, your formative years, 12 to 18, I think 18 to 25 is where you get them hot. And
Absolutely.
When I say hot, I mean, it's like the right time, prime time, and to do something about it. So talk to us about how it's been and what are you going through right now?
Yeah. Thank you, Sonal and Chandrika and Anu. Thank you so much for those points, because Aspire for Her, if we actually succeed in our mission, then your points are going to be very different in a few years' time, because that is exactly what we're trying to change. We're trying to change that equation, that less women coming into the workforce, gig and otherwise. We're also trying to change this whole thing about 35% low. I mean, everything else being equal, right? We're just trying to change that. So Aspire was born right in the middle of COVID, and in fact, 8th of March is our birthday. So 7th of March,
International Women's Day.
International Women's Day. Yes, that's when we launched. And without the gig, being there, I think we wouldn't be born. And all the work that we've done so far, I think we wouldn't have just gotten here. So we have, a community which is ever growing. As Anu said, that we work together on a couple of projects, which has been very, very fulfilling for us. But 18 to 25-year-olds have been the hardest hit, I think, in this entire pandemic. And I'll tell you a little bit about our birth story, and I'll tell you how the whole gig piece really works in. So I was on a flight on the 7th of March, 24 hours, okay? And I was trying to launch on the 8th, and literally, there were actually people who were all gigging, who were working across the world, trying to ensure that we actually launch on the right day at the right time. So there were literally people working from, Berkeley, where my creative strategist was based, to Begusarai, where, somebody was actually trying to just get the website up and running. So that's literally how it was. People were working throughout the clock, and I was on the flight, so I was using the Wi-Fi of the flight to actually get it all going and to ensure that it all gets approved and gets launched in time. Today also, the person who actually focuses on our strategy is a gig worker. She works Tuesdays and Thursdays with us, and she does a lot of other exciting stuff the other days of the week. My chief operating officer is actually CEO of a large firm. The person who handles my social media, everybody's a student. Mostly all the people who work for me are students otherwise. So my person who handles my social media is a biotechnologist, another one is a fashion designer. The person who actually handles our social vertical is a dentist, and one of the mentors is an investment banker who works out of Singapore. So we have all of these very interesting people who come together with their skills, and they're all gigging away. And that's how Aspire was born. And that's how actually we've come this far in the last 8 months. So, fascinating journey. We talk about the importance of careers for women. And we'd like to catch them when they're 18 to 25, because that's when they're intellectually most responsive. And they're also a little confused about what they want to do in life. And that's why we do that. In fact, the first career preview that we did was of somebody who was a fashion designer, a stylist, a blogger, an internet influencer, and a classic example of a typical gig person, right? And so we celebrate gigs. We tell folks that it's not necessary that you have to go into either an entrepreneurship or into a normal traditional employment, but look at something that you like, but ensure that you're financially independent. Okay. Ensure that that's what we look at. So that's what Aspire stands for. Yeah.
Okay, this is extremely inspiring. I think I'd safely say, and I probably the other two women here will agree with me. I think, Madhura, your company and your thinking, it's a little bit ahead of its time. And I haven't seen a lot of this in other companies around the world. So you're just like, your best is yet to come, right? You're just getting started. So 8 months old, it's like a baby who's learning how to crawl, but you're doing such great work. So fabulous. Great. So we're going to get into, because I'm looking at the time and I don't want to be.
Yeah.
So Chandrika, I know this is a no-brainer question. Should companies hire? Obviously, they should hire good workers, but I'm going to try and see, is there any reason, I'm going to ask you to shoot yourself in the foot. Any objections or any reasons you think that this company is not ready for gig work?
There are. I mean, I think there are several companies still who are not yet at that stage where, they'll be welcoming of gig work. And I think part of our role now is also to guide and work with our clients to help them get ready. Because it's one thing to get one or two consultants or freelancers on projects, that's easy. But when, you're thinking of 10% to 30% of your workforce being flexible, that's when you need to start thinking of systems and processes at scale. So simple things like which roles, will you use gig talent most for? And think about job descriptions for those, right? Compensation and benefits, what will you offer? So that it's fair and transparent, both internally and externally. How will you access these freelancers? How will you onboard them? Because you can't just have them show up at the gate. You need to think about, okay, am I going to give them an email ID? Am I going to give them laptops? How will they access my technology, my Slack, if I'm using Slack? And also how will I do performance management for gig workers? So I think there's a whole bunch of processes that need to be put in place by companies to actually leverage this talent well. And so I think companies that will not be able to use gig effectively are those that, for instance, think of it only as a cost game. And I think that I can't emphasize this enough. I think we hear a lot of people who say, I'll save. And that cannot be the reason why, or the primary reason why you're leveraging a flexible worker or a gig worker. I think the primary reason has to be, you want agility.
Yes.
The ability to get trained resources at short notice so that they can work on your surge projects, important projects, respond to market conditions. The second thing has to be you want specialized skills, which you don't have in-house. The third is actually to access the best talent, because in some of these newer age skills like analytics and UI UX, people are preferring to gig and preferring to do projects versus join.
Absolutely.
And the last And I think the last parameter is flexibility on costs. On a like-to-like basis, on a month-to-month basis, you will probably pay more than you would because you're not giving them benefits. You're using them only, for, let's say, that month or two. You're not investing in their career development. So all of that needs to, be factored in. Talent, we need to give 20%. So you get with the assumption that I'm going to save costs. And that's the reason. Yeah. Don't lead with that. Absolutely.
I love that that was your fourth point, and I love that it was your first point. Don't lead with it, because the thing that you lead with it ends up defining you in some way or the other.
Completely.
And I can think of a fifth reason, because when I was on the employer side, when we had a search, let's say an open position, like you said, it's difficult to find, it's very specialized. What if it's a confidential search? What if there's an issue today? You can't tell this person, you're going to have to do something because the performance is not up to the mark and it's very confidential.
Yeah.
These guys, their whole reputation is on the line. Why will they screw up? Fabulous. I'm very curious here, Anu, because based on what Chandrika just said, let's say I have a team of 10 and I get one gig worker, right? So I'm thinking two things: diversity, inclusion, which is overblown these days. But let's say diversity meaning, if out of these 10, this is the 10th person. So out of these 10, 9 are, let's say, men, Hindu, mainstream background, right? And this person is a minority. So that's okay. You did this, you check the box, you make everyone happy. And then the inclusion, we're going out for lunch today, obviously when COVID is not there anymore. There's a team outing. Do they feel included, etc.? So when you think of all of this and everything that you're doing, particularly when it comes to women, because at the end of the day, we don't have enough women in anything, not even forget technology, but in anything. What are your views on all of this?
You're talking to a brown woman from investment banking who was in London. And, the only colleague she's had is white, bald hair, 40-year-old men, right?
A colleague of mine recently told me, male, pale and stale.
Exactly.
Don't repeat that I said that. I'm talking to the right person, Anu, so share away.
So I think whether it's gig or non-gig, what Chandrika said really resonates. Are the organizations fully ready? I don't think all of them are.
Yeah.
And the way you engage, whether it's minority or it's gigs, is a very different ballgame. And the whole debate around inclusion, Sonal, has been in existence since I was born. In the corporate world. And yes, the needle has moved, but it probably hasn't moved as much as many of us here would like it to move. Mm-hmm. I know how it feels when, people don't get you because you have a different accent or you speak English differently, leave alone being your gender. We both know Europe is a very polite culture. When you go in from India, and you are not even India, I was coming from New York. So it was just very, difficult, and the cultural norms. So that whole feeling of how the rules are being applied and you're being singled out is something I've felt. But the problem here is it's not that the majority is singling you out. It's just that the rules are only visible to the minority. There is a certain way of doing things, and it's so invisible to them because they don't know it's happening till you call it out. So I'm a big believer when you talk about inclusion that each one of us has to do our job. It's tough. And I can tell you, there have been times when I was in a banking, so we were having some deal and it went horribly wrong. And, sorry to say this here, but the language went from good to bad to ugly to completely objectionable. And I raised my hand and said, hey guys, there's a woman in the room. And they looked around, looking through me, saying, where? Okay, because I had become one of them. No, it's a bad example of inclusion. Okay, but basically, it had become completely gender agnostic in some ways. No, but I could have that conversation in terms of what implications it may have and how somebody would feel about it. The problem is, it's tough to have those conversations. The segue to inclusion is simple conversations, and letting them know how you're feeling about it. People who are minorities feel it might be a career limiting move, so let me not bring it up. And
Right.
people who are in majority feel, oh my God, is there a real issue, or she or he, whatever the minority maybe, is making a big deal out of it. So
Yeah.
I speak from the heart as far as inclusion is concerned, but I also believe that I was a beneficiary of being included amongst white English men when I called it out. So they do take notice. It's not everybody's wicked to get you, in a spot, but it's just simple conversations which require a little bit of courage and conviction.
Absolutely. And as a company, creating that safe environment, right, where people can feel like they can speak up. And like they say, inclusion starts with I. So you need to be aware, because we all have unconscious biases. So fabulous. Madhura, so what are you taking away on behalf of all the millennials that you work with from this discussion?
Well, the other day I was looking at one of the LinkedIn profiles of one of the millennials I work with, okay? So she is a media strategist, she's a marketing head, she's a digital something, she's a co-founder of a company, she blogs somewhere, she does something else. When you see this, I felt, oh, well, this person must at least have 20, 25 years of experience behind her. So I actually look at her profile. She's 21 years old. Okay, so and that's what I think the millennials really like, and that's what they like. And Chandrika, this should be music to your ears, because I think the generation that is coming up now is very, very interested in that flexibility. Is very interested in having their hand in multiple things, and they really excel at multiple things as well. So I think that's what I'm taking away, that there are a lot of opportunities where their unique, interests and their unique, the way they are, they'll actually fit in beautifully with the flexing it sort of a thing. So more power to you, and more power to Anu, who's actually bringing so many wonderful tech jobs to them. So that's what I'm taking away, really.
Yeah. No, that's great. When I'm listening to you, what I'm hearing is, it's not only okay to be multi-passionate, it's actually encouraged now, little by little, even if your parents are like, no, this is not a straight jacket approach, and this is so disappointing, and you should have been doing this by now. Which is why we need more people like you, Madhura, doing the great work that you do. So we have a little over a minute to go, but I'd like you to think about, because we've talked about a lot of stuff. Like we've covered Neha, Sangeeta, if you're watching, we've covered a lot of stuff in 30 minutes. So hopefully this was useful for the listeners, for the viewers, as much as it has been. It has definitely been for me. It's a very rich discussion. But if we go around this room, let's call it a room, and ask each of us, what are we taking away in one word? And no cheating, like one word means one word. So who wants to go first?
I can go first because there's something in my head. We're very excited about launching our first research report today, and that's actually one word: women at work. Okay, it's
women at work. Okay, I will allow
women at work. And, yeah. So we did a lot of interesting stuff around the impact of women at work, and we're going to make it an annual affair. So and we hope that all of you will take time to read it. The first rushes are just coming out, so I'll just leave with that.
Okay, thank you for #women at work. How about you, Anu?
So I'm going to dedicate it to the three of you, and I'm going to cheat with three words, which is inclusion, impact, and innovation, because three of you kind of are testimony. Yeah.
Fabulous. We're like 5 seconds over. Chandrika, go quickly.
My word would be skills. Focus skills, not roles.
Skills. Yeah, my word is future. We're done. We're on zero. So, wow. My word is future. Actually, my word is not even future. The thing is, it's already here. So the future is already now.
Right.
So fabulous. This has been a lot of fun. Akanksha, we're ready for you, and hope this was enjoyable and hopefully inspiring.
Voila, it was actually a powerful session, I must say. I think looking at all these wonderful women on screen virtually, it's a tremendous experience for each one of us. And Sonal, thank you for driving it so beautifully. And each one of you, it was definitely a great session. Thank you so much for being with us and taking our time. And I hope you have a good evening and you can enjoy the plenary sessions which are at Screen 1. I think you must watch those out as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonal. Bye.